Emma stared at the text message from her husband Jacob, rereading it for the third time. He had arranged a surprise anniversary dinner for them at their favorite restaurant. But something felt off. The message lacked Jacob's usual terms of endearment. Emma shrugged it off, figuring he was just busy at work. She needed to get ready for her own appointment. Emma had been having an affair with Alexander, a senior partner at the law firm where she worked. The thrill of sneaking around, the illicit encounters in Alexander's corner office, it made Emma feel alive again after years in a stale marriage. She quickly freshened up, dabbed on some perfume, and headed out to meet Alexander at their usual hotel. Hours later, Emma returned home for the anniversary dinner, still flush with the afterglow of her rendezvous. But as she entered the dining room, Emma stopped cold. The room was dim, lit only by flickering candles. Jacob sat at the head of the table, his face like stone. "Sit down, Emma," he said, his voice emotionless. "We have a lot to discuss." Emma sat, her heart racing. Jacob slid a manila envelope across the table. "Open it," he commanded. Inside were photos, dozens of them. Emma and Alexander in compromising positions, in his car, entering hotels. Emma's stomach dropped as she came to a paternity test for their 2-year-old daughter. The father was Alexander, not Jacob. "How could you?" Jacob seethed. "After everything I've done for you, for our family. You betrayed me." "Jacob, I'm so sorry, I never meant." Emma fumbled for words, but Jacob slammed his fist on the table, silencing her. "I've known for months. Ever since William showed me the surveillance." Emma looked up. "William? Who's William?" Jacob laughed bitterly. "You don't get to ask questions anymore. Let's just say William and I have some business interests in common. Interests that your little fling with Alexander has put in serious jeopardy." Emma's mind reeled, trying to process it all. The man she thought she knew so well was a stranger. "Jacob, you're scaring me. Let's talk about this." Just then, the doorbell rang. Jacob smiled grimly. "Right on time." He returned with Alexander, who stormed in angrily. "You bastard." Alexander yelled. "You got me fired. I'm ruined." "Shut up and sit down," Jacob barked, shoving Alexander into a chair. He pulled out a strange-looking gun. "What is that?" Emma gasped. "Tranquilizer gun," Jacob replied, firing a dart into Alexander's neck. He slumped over, unconscious. Jacob zip-tied Alexander to the chair, then turned to Emma. "Here's what's going to happen. You're going to do exactly what I say, or your boyfriend here dies. William's associates will make sure of it." "Why are you doing this?" Emma sobbed. "Because I won't let anyone threaten what I've built, what William and I have planned," Jacob said coldly. "And you two are going to help us, whether you want to or not." He aimed the tranq gun at Emma as her vision blurred with tears. Her perfect life, her family, had all been a lie. And now this William controlled their fate. Emma's last thought as the dart hit her neck was that she had no idea who her husband really was. Then everything went black. Emma woke groggily, her head pounding. She was tied to a chair in their basement. Alexander was bound next to her, still unconscious. Jacob loomed over them, flanked by 2 burly men she didn't recognize. "Good, you're awake," Jacob said. "Let me introduce you to my associates, courtesy of William. They're here to ensure your cooperation." "Cooperation with what?" Emma croaked, her throat dry with fear. Jacob held up a dossier. "Alexander here has been a naughty boy, siphoning funds from his clients into some offshore accounts. William has proof. That's why he got fired." He leaned in close to Alexander. "Isn't that right, Alex? You thought you could just take the money and run. But William doesn't let anyone cross him." Alexander stirred, coming to. "Jacob, what? I don't know what you're talking about." Jacob backhanded him viciously. "Don't lie to me. You've been embezzling for months. And when William confronted you, you tried to blackmail him to keep quiet." Emma looked at Alexander in disbelief. Was everyone in her life hiding dark secrets? "So here's the deal," Jacob continued. "You're going to return every cent you stole. And you're going to hand over any evidence you have against William." "And if I don't?" Alexander asked defiantly. Jacob smiled. William has some very creative ways of making problems disappear. I'd hate for Emma to become a widow. Emma struggled against her bonds. Jacob, please. I'm sorry for the affair. I'll do anything, just let us go. You still don't get it, Emma, Jacob said. This isn't about the affair. That was just the final straw. I've been working with William for years, helping him expand his empire. What empire? Emma asked, dreading the answer. Let's just say William has his hands in a lot of pies. Political manipulation, corporate espionage, blackmail. He keeps the world's elite in line, and they pay handsomely for it. Emma's blood ran cold. Her husband wasn't just unfaithful, he was a criminal. And what's my role in all this? She asked shakily. Insurance, Jacob replied. Alexander is going to do what we ask, because if he doesn't, you're going to prison for embezzlement too. William will make sure of it. Alexander sagged in his chair, defeated. You won't get away with this. Jacob laughed. William has been getting away with it for decades. No one can touch him. He owns half the police, judges, and politicians in this city. He turned to his henchmen. Get Alexander cleaned up and ready to make some transfers. I need to have a chat with my wife. The men dragged Alexander away, leaving Emma alone with the stranger she had married. I never wanted you involved in this, Jacob said. I kept my work with William separate. But you just couldn't stop digging, could you? I didn't dig for anything. Emma protested. I didn't know about any of this until today. Liar. Jacob roared. I saw you snooping in my office, going through my files. You and Alexander probably planned to blackmail me too. No, Jacob, I swear. Emma pleaded, but Jacob silenced her with a look. It doesn't matter now. You're in this, whether you like it or not. You're going to smile, play the doting wife, and keep your mouth shut. Or William will take our daughter. And you'll never see her again. Emma wept, her spirit broken. This was her life now, a pawn in a shadowy game of power and control. And her own husband was her jailer. Jacob untied her. Go get dressed. William is throwing a gala tonight and we need to keep up appearances. If you breathe a word of this to anyone, you know the consequences. Emma nodded numbly and went upstairs, a prisoner in her own gilded cage. She had no idea how to escape this nightmare. All she could do was survive, day by day, and pray that somehow, she could protect her daughter from the monsters surrounding them. Emma stood in front of the mirror, applying her makeup with shaking hands. She smoothed her elegant gown, a mask of elegance to hide the turmoil within. Jacob appeared behind her, adjusting his bow tie. Remember, you need to be the perfect wife tonight, he warned. William will be watching. They arrived at the gala, a glittering affair filled with the city's elite. Emma plastered on a smile as she mingled, sipping champagne she couldn't taste. Across the room, she spotted Alexander, looking haggard but playing his part. A hush fell over the crowd as a man entered, exuding power and confidence. Emma instantly knew it must be William. He was older, distinguished, with piercing eyes that seemed to see right through her. Jacob greeted him deferentially, introducing Emma. William took her hand, his grip cold and firm. Charmed, he said, his voice smooth as silk. Jacob, you didn't tell me your wife was so beautiful. I can see why Alexander was tempted. Emma flinched but maintained her smile. William continued, I do hope we can all move past this unpleasantness. After all, we're all on the same team now. He gave Emma a meaningful look before moving on to greet other guests. Emma released a shaky breath. The message was clear. She belonged to William now, just like Jacob and Alexander. As the evening wore on, Emma found herself alone on the balcony, desperate for air. She jumped when a voice spoke behind her. Quite the predicament you found yourself in. Emma turned to see a striking woman in a sleek black dress. She looked vaguely familiar. I'm sorry, do I know you? Emma asked. The woman smiled enigmatically. We've never met. But I know all about you, Emma. And I know what William is capable of. Emma's heart raced. Who are you? A friend. Or at least, I'd like to be. The woman handed Emma a business card. If you ever decide you want out of this life, call me. I can help. She melted back into the party, leaving Emma stunned. She looked at the card. It contained only a first name, Olivia, and a phone number. Could this be her chance to escape? But the risks were enormous. If William found out, he would destroy her, Jacob, and her daughter. Emma slipped the card into her clutch, her mind spinning. She needed to bide her time, gather more information, play along until she could make her move. The next few weeks were a blur of forced smiles and secret meetings. Emma learned more about William's criminal network, the influential people under his thumb. She started secretly documenting everything, building a case. Meanwhile, Alexander grew increasingly unstable, drinking heavily and lashing out. Emma feared he would crack under the pressure and expose them all. Her fears proved founded when Jacob burst into her room one night, his face ashen. "Alexander is dead," he said hollowly. "Suicide." He left a note confessing to everything. Emma's blood ran cold. Had Alexander really taken his own life? Or had William silenced him permanently? She comforted a distraught Jacob, all while her mind raced. Alexander's death was a warning. She needed to act fast or suffer the same fate. The next day, while Jacob was out, Emma made the call. Olivia answered on the first ring. "I'm ready," Emma said, her voice shaking but determined. "I want out. What do I need to do?" "Pack a bag," Olivia replied. "Take your daughter and meet me at the address I'm sending you. Don't tell anyone where you're going. We'll take care of the rest." Emma moved on autopilot, throwing clothes and essentials into a suitcase, scooping up her sleeping daughter. She paused only to leave Jacob a note. "I'm sorry. I had no choice. Please don't look for us." She fled into the night, heart pounding, praying that Olivia was truly a friend and not another of William's tricks. But any chance at freedom was worth the risk. As she drove away from the life she knew, Emma vowed that one day, she would bring William and his empire crashing down. For Alexander, for her daughter, and for her own shattered soul. This was only the beginning. The sequel follows. If you leave a comment, tell us what you think about the story you heard. It's important to us and will help us find and tell stories that you find interesting. Emma followed Olivia's directions to a nondescript apartment building on the outskirts of the city. She parked in the alley behind the building, trying to calm her racing heart. Her daughter, Lily, slept peacefully in her car seat, blissfully unaware of the danger they were in. Emma startled when Olivia emerged from the shadows. "Quickly, inside," she urged, guiding them into the building and up to a small apartment. Once inside, Olivia locked the door securely. "We don't have much time. William will soon realize you're gone and come looking." "Who are you, really?" Emma asked. "Why are you helping me?" Olivia sighed. "I used to work for William. The first was young, ambitious, and I thought I was doing good, exposing corrupt politicians and businessmen. But I soon realized William was just as corrupt, using blackmail to control people." She continued, "When I tried to leave, William threatened my family. I had to go into hiding. I've been working to take him down ever since." Emma digested this. "So what's the plan?" "We need to get you and Lily somewhere safe, somewhere William can't reach you," Olivia said. "I have contacts who can create new identities, set you up in another country." "But what about Jacob?" "I can't just leave him behind," Emma protested. Olivia gave her a sympathetic look. "Emma, Jacob is too deeply entwined with William. If he comes with you, William will never stop hunting you." Tears streamed down Emma's face as the reality sank in. She had to choose between her husband and her daughter's safety. Olivia placed a hand on her shoulder. "I know it's not easy. But you're doing the right thing. Lily deserves a chance at a normal life, free from William's influence." Emma nodded, steeling herself. "Okay. What do we do next?" Over the next few hours, Olivia made calls, arranging for fake passports and transportation. Emma tried to rest, but her mind was reeling. Suddenly, there was a pounding at the door. "Open up. I know you're in there." It was Jacob's voice. Emma froze in terror. How had he found them so quickly? Olivia grabbed her gun, motioning for Emma to hide with Lily in the bedroom. She crept to the door, looking through the peephole. Her face paled. "It's not just Jacob. William is with him." Emma's heart stopped. They were trapped. William would kill them all for trying to escape. But Olivia wasn't ready to give up. "The fire escape," she whispered. "Go, now. I'll hold them off." "I can't leave you," Emma argued, but Olivia pushed her towards the window. "You have to. For Lily. I'll buy you as much time as I can." With a last anguished look, Emma climbed out onto the fire escape with Lily clutched to her chest. She heard the door splinter open, Jacob and William bursting in. Gunshots rang out as Emma raced down the metal stairs, praying Olivia was all right. She reached the alley and ran to her car, strapping Lily in with trembling hands. As she peeled out into the night, Emma glanced in the rearview mirror. She saw William and Jacob emerge from the building, looking around furiously. In Jacob's arms was Olivia's limp body. Emma choked back a sob, flooring the accelerator. Olivia had sacrificed herself to save them. Her death would not be in vain. Miles blurred past as Emma drove, no destination in mind, just a way. She would have to disappear, become someone new to keep her daughter safe. But she silently vowed that one day, she would return. One day, when Lily was grown and William was least expecting it, Emma would have her revenge. She would make him pay for destroying her life and the lives of so many others. As the city lights faded in the distance, Emma whispered a promise into the darkness. "I'm coming for you, William. No matter how long it takes, you will face justice. I swear it." The road stretched on, a new chapter beginning. Emma didn't know what challenges lay ahead, but she had her daughter and her determination. For now, that would have to be enough. 10 years later, Emma, now going by the name Sarah, stood at the window of her cozy cottage, sipping her morning coffee. The years had been kind to her, the lines on her face speaking more of laughter than sorrow these days. In the garden, 12-year-old Lily played with their dog, her giggles carrying on the breeze. Emma smiled softly. Her daughter had grown into a bright, curious girl, untouched by the shadows of her early life. After that fateful night, Emma had used Olivia's contacts to build a new life in a quiet corner of Europe. She'd found work as a translator, using her language skills to support herself and Lily. But she'd never forgotten her vow. Every spare moment was spent researching William and his network, gathering evidence. She'd made contact with others William had wronged, slowly building a case against him. A knock at the door startled Emma from her thoughts. Cautiously, she opened it to find a man she never thought she'd see again. "Hello, Emma," Jacob said softly. "Or should I say, Sarah?" Emma stared in shock. He looked older, more careworn, but it was unmistakably her husband. "How did you find me?" she whispered. "It wasn't easy," Jacob admitted. "But I never stopped looking. Emma, I'm so sorry for everything. I was a fool, blinded by power and greed." Emma let him in warily. Over coffee, Jacob poured out his story. After she'd left, his loyalty to William had crumbled. Racked with guilt over his role in Alexander's death and Olivia's, he'd turned double agent, working to undermine William from within. "It's taken years, but I've finally gathered enough evidence to take William down," Jacob said. "Embezzlement, bribery, blackmail, it's all there. But I need your help." Emma was torn. Could she trust the man who had betrayed her so deeply? But the chance to finally bring William to justice was too tempting to resist. She agreed to return with Jacob, leaving Lily in the care of a trusted friend. They met with law enforcement, handing over the damning evidence. The net closed in on William. His assets were frozen, his associates arrested one by one. Finally, the day came when William himself was led away in handcuffs, his empire in ruins. Emma watched from the shadows as her tormentor disappeared into a police car. It was over. She was free. Jacob took her hand. "Come home, Emma. We can start over, be a family again. I've changed, I swear it." Emma looked at him, seeing the sincerity in his eyes. Could she forgive him? Could they rebuild what they once had? She thought of Lily, of the life they'd built. She couldn't disrupt that, couldn't risk her daughter's happiness. "I'm sorry, Jacob," she said softly. "But I am home. Lily and I have a good life here. I can't go back." Jacob nodded sadly. "I understand. I just want you to be happy, Emma. That's all I've ever wanted." They parted with a bittersweet kiss, a final farewell to the love they'd shared. Emma returned to her cottage, to her daughter, to the peace she'd fought so hard for. As she tucked Lily into bed that night, Emma felt a sense of closure wash over her. The ghosts of her past had finally been laid to rest. She could look to the future now, unburdened by fear or anger. She knew there would be challenges ahead. Healing was a long road. But with her daughter by her side and the truth finally brought to light, Emma knew she could face anything. She drifted off to sleep, dreaming of a brighter tomorrow. In her heart, she thanked Olivia, her guardian angel. Her sacrifice had not been in vain. Justice, at long last, had been served. And somewhere, in the quiet corners of the night, Emma swore she could hear Olivia's voice whispering, "Well done, my friend. Well done." 5 years later, Emma sat at her desk, putting the final touches on her memoir. The cathartic process of writing had helped her make peace with her tumultuous past. She hoped her story would inspire others, showing that it was possible to overcome even the darkest of circumstances. Lily, now a vibrant 17-year-old, bounded into the room. "Mom, I got my acceptance letter. I'm going to university." Emma beamed with pride, embracing her daughter tightly. Lily had grown into an exceptional young woman, her resilience and compassion a testament to the strength of the human spirit. As they celebrated over dinner, Emma reflected on how far they'd come. The scars of the past would always be a part of them, but they no longer defined their lives. They had found happiness, carved out a new existence built on love and trust. A few days later, Emma received a surprise visitor. Jacob, his hair now graying at the temples, stood on her doorstep. "I hope I'm not intruding," he said hesitantly. "But I wanted to see you, to apologize once more for all the pain I caused." Emma invited him in, marveling at the changes in the man she once loved. Gone was the arrogance and cruelty, replaced by a quiet humility. They talked for hours, not as husband and wife, but as two people who had weathered the same storm. Jacob expressed his remorse, his journey to become a better man. He was working with a foundation now, helping victims of abuse and exploitation. "I can never undo what I did," he said. "But I'm trying to make amends, to use my experience to prevent others from suffering as we did." Emma felt a wave of forgiveness wash over her. She couldn't forget the past, but she could finally let go of the anger and bitterness that had weighed her down for so long. As Jacob left, he handed her a letter. "I've been holding on to this for years, waiting for the right moment. I think you should have it." After he was gone, Emma opened the letter with trembling hands. It was from Olivia, written before that fateful night. "My dear Emma," it read. "If you're reading this, then I didn't make it. But know that my sacrifice was not in vain. You and Lily are safe, and that's all that matters." Tears streamed down Emma's face as she read Olivia's words of encouragement, her unwavering faith that Emma would triumph over William. "Remember, you are stronger than you know. You have a fire within you that cannot be extinguished. Use it to light the way for others, to be the beacon of hope that I know you can be." Emma clutched the letter to her heart, whispering a silent thank you to the woman who had given everything to save them. In that moment, Emma knew her journey was not over. She would honor Olivia's memory by continuing to fight injustice, to stand up for the oppressed and the voiceless. She would share her story, use her voice to inspire change. She would teach Lily to be brave, to stand tall in the face of adversity. For Emma had learned that even in the darkest of times, there was always hope. There was always the chance for a new beginning, for a life filled with love and purpose. She looked out the window, to the sun setting over the hills. It was a beautiful world, despite its cruelties. And she was grateful, so very grateful, to be a part of it. With a smile on her face and peace in her heart, Emma turned to the next blank page of her memoir. There were more chapters to write, more lives to touch. Her story was not over. It was just beginning. The sequel follows. If you leave a comment, tell us what you think about the story you heard. It's important to us and will help us find and tell stories that you find interesting. Years turned into decades, and Emma's story spread far and wide. Her memoir became a bestseller, a beacon of hope for those trapped in situations of abuse and control. She became a sought-after speaker, sharing her experiences and advocating for change. Lily followed in her mother's footsteps, becoming a fierce lawyer dedicated to helping the vulnerable. She took on cases pro bono, fighting tirelessly for justice. Emma couldn't have been more proud. Jacob continued his work with the foundation, his efforts helping countless people escape from toxic relationships and rebuild their lives. He and Emma maintained a cordial relationship, the pain of the past slowly healing into a shared understanding. Emma never remarried, content in the love of her daughter and the fulfillment of her purpose. She knew that her heart had been through too much to open itself fully again. But she was at peace with that, cherishing the deep friendships she had cultivated over the years. As she grew older, Emma often thought of Olivia, the woman who had given her a second chance at life. She hoped that wherever Olivia was, she could see the impact of her sacrifice, the countless lives changed by her bravery. In quiet moments, Emma would retreat to her garden, tending to the flowers that bloomed under her care. She found solace in the simple act of nurturing growth, seeing in each bud the promise of new beginnings. It was in this garden that Lily found her one sunny afternoon, a letter clutched in her hand. "Mom," she said softly, "I found this while going through some old documents. I think you should see it." Emma took the letter, her hands trembling slightly as she recognized William's handwriting. It was dated just days before his arrest. "Emma," it read, "I know you have no reason to believe a word I say, but I need you to know that I am sorry. Sorry for the pain I caused, the lives I destroyed in my quest for power." He went on to detail the full extent of his crimes, the people he had manipulated and exploited. It was a confession, a plea for understanding. "I do not ask for your forgiveness," he wrote. "I know I do not deserve it. But I wanted you to know the truth, to understand the depths of my regret. You were the one thing in my life I could not control, and that terrified me. But it was also what saved me, in the end. Your strength, your defiance, showed me the monster I had become." Emma felt a tear slip down her cheek as she read the final lines. "I am paying for my sins now, and I will continue to do so for the rest of my days. But I go to my punishment a changed man, thanks to you. You were the light in my darkness, Emma. And for that, I will always be grateful." She folded the letter carefully, a weight lifting from her shoulders. Even William, the man she had once believed to be pure evil, had found a glimmer of redemption. It was a reminder that no one was beyond hope, that even the darkest hearts could be touched by the power of forgiveness. Emma looked out over her garden, at the life she had built from the ashes of her past. She had known great sorrow, but also great joy. She had known fear, but also courage. And through it all, she had remained true to herself, to the unbreakable spirit that had carried her through the worst of times. She smiled, breathing in the sweet scent of the blooming roses. Her story had been written, her legacy secured. And as the sun began to set on another day, Emma knew that she was exactly where she was meant to be. For she had learned the greatest lesson of all, that in the end, it was not the challenges we faced that defined us, but how we chose to rise above them. And rise she had, like a phoenix from the ashes, her wings spreading wide to embrace the endless possibilities of a life well lived. As Emma's story spread, it touched the lives of countless people around the world. Her message of resilience, of the power of the human spirit to overcome even the darkest of circumstances, resonated deeply with those who had faced their own struggles. Her memoir was translated into dozens of languages, becoming a global phenomenon. Emma received letters from far and wide, from people who had found the strength to leave abusive relationships, to start new lives, to pursue their dreams against all odds. Each letter was a reminder of the impact one person's story could have, of the ripple effect of courage and compassion. Emma cherished every word, every heartfelt thanks, knowing that her pain had been transformed into purpose. Lily, too, felt the weight of her mother's legacy. As a lawyer, she fought tirelessly for the rights of the oppressed, taking on cases that others deemed hopeless. She became a champion for the voiceless, a fierce advocate for justice. In time, Lily found love, marrying a kind-hearted man who shared her passion for making a difference. They had children of their own, a new generation raised on the values of empathy and perseverance. Emma reveled in her role as grandmother, telling her grandchildren stories of their family's history, of the challenges overcome and the lessons learned. She watched with pride as they grew into compassionate, determined individuals, ready to make their own mark on the world. As the years passed, Emma's health began to fade, the toll of a life hard-lived catching up with her. But even in her final days, she remained a beacon of hope, her spirit undimmed by the passage of time. Surrounded by her loved ones, Emma reflected on the extraordinary journey of her life. She thought of Olivia, of the sacrifice that had given her a second chance. She thought of Jacob, of the redemption he had found in helping others. And she thought of William, of the lesson she had learned in the power of forgiveness. In her last moments, Emma's thoughts turned to the future, to the generations yet to come. She knew that her story would live on, a testament to the indomitable nature of the human spirit. With a final smile, Emma closed her eyes, at peace with all that had been and all that would be. Her legacy was secure, her impact eternal. As word of Emma's passing spread, the world mourned the loss of a true hero. Tributes poured in from all corners of the globe, from those who had been touched by her story, her strength, her unwavering commitment to justice. But even as they grieved, they celebrated, knowing that Emma's spirit would endure, a guiding light for generations to come. Her memory would be cherished, her lessons passed down, her love felt in every act of kindness, every stand against injustice. For Emma had shown the world the true meaning of resilience, of the power within each of us to shape our own destinies. She had shown that even in the face of unimaginable darkness, there was always hope, always the chance for a new beginning. And so, as the sun rose on a new day, the world moved forward, forever changed by the extraordinary life of one woman. A woman who had faced the worst of humanity and emerged stronger, wiser, and more compassionate. A woman who had left an indelible mark on all who knew her, and on all who would come to know her story. Emma's legacy lived on, a reminder that even in the darkest of times, there was always the potential for light. That within each of us lay the power to change the world, one act of courage, one moment of grace at a time. And in that knowledge, there was hope. Hope for a better tomorrow, for a world where the strength of the human spirit would always triumph over the forces of oppression and cruelty. A world that Emma had helped to build, one story at a time. Emma's story became a part of history, a testament to the enduring power of the human spirit. Her legacy lived on through her descendants, each generation carrying the torch of her courage and compassion. Lily's children grew into accomplished adults, their lives dedicated to the pursuit of justice and equality. They became leaders in their fields, using their influence to effect change on a global scale. Emma's great-grandchildren, and their children after them, were raised on the tales of their remarkable ancestor. They learned of her strength in the face of adversity, her unwavering commitment to truth and justice. As the world changed and evolved, Emma's story remained a constant, a reminder of the timeless values of resilience and hope. Her memoir was studied in schools, her life held up as an example of the transformative power of the individual. In the halls of power, Emma's name was invoked as a call to action, a reminder of the responsibility of those with influence to use their platform for good. Laws were passed in her honor, protecting the vulnerable and holding the powerful to account. And in the hearts of the countless people touched by her story, Emma lived on, a beacon of hope in a world that could often seem dark and unforgiving. Her words, her actions, her indomitable spirit continued to inspire, to uplift, to remind us all of the beauty and potential within each human soul. Generations came and went, but Emma's legacy endured, woven into the very fabric of society. Her story was passed down from parent to child, a precious inheritance of courage and compassion. And as the world faced new challenges, new threats to the ideals of justice and equality, Emma's descendants rose to meet them, armed with the knowledge of their ancestors' unbreakable will. They became the leaders of a new era, the torchbearers of Emma's dream. They fought for the oppressed, the marginalized, the forgotten. They stood tall in the face of corruption and greed, unwavering in their commitment to a better world. And through it all, Emma's spirit watched over them, a guiding light in the darkness. Her love, her strength, her unshakable belief in the goodness of the human heart lived on, an eternal flame that could never be extinguished. As the generations passed, Emma's story became more than just a family history. It became a part of the collective consciousness, a shared memory of the power of one individual to change the course of history. In a world that could often seem fractured and divided, Emma's legacy served as a reminder of our common humanity, of the ties that bind us all. Her story transcended borders and boundaries, speaking to the universal yearning for justice, for compassion, for a life lived with purpose and meaning. And so, as the sun rose and set, as the seasons turned and the years passed, Emma's spirit lived on, a constant presence in a world forever changed by her extraordinary life. Her story had become legend, her name synonymous with hope and resilience. But more than that, she had become a part of us all, a reminder of the limitless potential within each human heart. For as long as there were those who believed in the power of courage, in the strength of the human spirit, Emma would never truly be gone. She would live on, a shining example of all that we could be, all that we aspired to become. And in that knowledge, there was comfort. Comfort in the understanding that even in the darkest of times, there was always the potential for light. That as long as there were those willing to stand up, to speak out, to fight for what was right, the legacy of Emma would endure. A legacy of hope, of resilience, of the unbreakable bonds of love and compassion that tie us all together. A legacy that would never be forgotten, as long as there were those to remember, to carry the torch, to keep the flame alive. For in the end, that was Emma's greatest gift to the world. Not just her story, but the inspiration it provided, the countless lives it touched, the generations it shaped. A gift that would endure, as long as the human spirit itself. If you leave a comment, tell us what you think about the story you heard. It's important to us and will help us find and tell stories that you find interesting. Thank you for watching us.